Are you interested in knowing where you come from, knowing your history, knowing something about your culture, and even your heritage? What are those things that your grandparents and great-grandparents passed on to you? How did you come to be who you are? My name is Sheila Kawamara Mishambi, and I am the founder and director of Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park. Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park is a heritage park which committed itself to ensure that it educates Africans. This is not just a storytelling project. This is a mission to find ourselves, to be able to retell our stories from our own perspective, so that we are able to ask ourselves, who are we as a people? Instead of being told who we are. My story begins many, many years ago. As a young girl, I wondered where we came from. And my grandmother at that time, she told us stories about our ancestors. They were heroes and heroines. They traveled and traversed this land. And they were proud people. But later on, when I grew up and I was around 7 years old, religion began telling me a contradiction. Our forefathers were depicted as not being worthy the love of God. And that was terrifying to me. When I went to school, the contradictions increased. As these contradictions increased at every stage of my life, I asked many questions. And these questions, most times, were never answered. They were never answered by my grandmother, who told stories and stopped somewhere. They were never answered by my religious teachers. And they were never answered by my parents. So, while in school, most of the history we learned stopped somewhere. We were told about a certain issue, and it was never conclusively told to the end. And so with that, I pursued my education up to university, where I studied history as a subject to clearly understand where did we come from as a people. And still, much as I studied that history, I did not get the facts about my country, Uganda. After my first degree as a teacher, I taught economics and commerce. But I continued questioning why certain things are not taught in our schools. They are taught at the university, but that kind of history was never taught in our schools. Being so disturbed, I later on left teaching as a profession and decided to be a journalist. And I believed that with journalism, I would be able to not only document our history, but I would also be able to interrogate it, to question why certain things happened the way they were happening, and why we as Africans, come out boldly to tell our story. When I was doing my master's in the Netherlands in 1994 and 1995, I had an opportunity to look at the culture in the Netherlands. They had a way of owning their own story and not letting an outsider tell it. While I was in the Netherlands, I was able to see the beauty of that country. And one of the places I visited was called Keukenhof. And this is sometimes called the Gardens of Europe, where they planted very beautiful flowers, very beautiful place. And in this particular place, the Dutch deliberately told their story, how they had managed to create a country, how they had managed to make it beautiful. And the tulip, which is like the national flower, was made popular across the world. But however, again, the Dutch told their story of war, how they had survived the two world wars. The Dutch were also very proud about their queen, their trace at the time, and they were proud to tell about how they have managed to maintain their kingdom. So coming back to Uganda, I had that feeling. I wanted to see how do we ourselves as Ugandans be proud telling our story. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We need to tell that story. We don't need to be ashamed of it. Because if you do not understand your history, you will never know where you're going. You can never plan. You will repeat the same mistakes done by your grandfathers, done by your fathers. You will continuously be in a cycle of ignorance, a cycle of poverty, and you will be going nowhere. So I believe that as Ugandans, we have a duty and a responsibility to tell our children where we have been so that they do not repeat the same mistakes we did. And it is that conviction that has made me be committed to ensure that we at Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park tell our story as it is, and we tell it to our children. And we also offer a space where we can debate some of the inconsistencies or some of the contradictions in the different stories. In the course of my work, I've been an executive director for Uganda Women's Network and also the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative, EASI, where I have led various campaigns on the lives of women. And most of the things that have happened to women. As a woman activist, I realized that most of the things that happen to our women are justified as being culture, being traditional, and being committed to what our grandparents and forefathers did. But in reality, we need to study these cultures and not only make them great, but also understand what is applicable. What should we abandon? What is abusive? So, as we glorify culture, we also need to question it and have it documented. Because most times, the cultures people talk about are not documented. And most of those cultures, they are abusive to women and girls. And so at Tembuzi, apart from bringing back and being able to display what our forefathers did, we also want to question and see what do we need for the present, what do we need for the future, because culture is never static. Culture is dynamic. Our forefathers didn't dress like us, but we dress differently. They never slept in beds, we sleep in beds. So those are some of the things we want to have documented at Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park. And we believe that together with our visitors that come to see us, we can continuously improve on what we are doing. As a journalist, I've traveled across Uganda and Eastern Africa, and also as a former member of the East African Legislative Parliament, IALA, I was able to traverse the entire region. And in this region, we are blessed. So I've made Tembuzi a personal calling, not a mere project. Tembuzi is a place where we can pass on wisdom, where our heritage is not going to be silent, where our stories are going to be boldly told, boldly challenged, and boldly passed on to the next generation, so that at any one time, a Ugandan can proudly say, That was the story of my forefathers. We are going to tell our story to the whole world. But when you want to get the real details, you just have to come to Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park, where we will immerse you into the real experience of what happened. By the time you are leaving the gates of Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park, you will be able to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going for the future. So, come to Tembuzi Cultural Fun Park and learn more about yourself, but also about Uganda.